I wake up in our apartment on what seems like just another morning, but there's a weight in the air that I can't shake off. Leah and I have been together for 4 years, and somewhere along the way, everything started falling apart. I've been chasing this dream of becoming an actor and writing screenplays, but the auditions are few and far between, and the paying gigs are even rarer. I can see the frustration in her eyes every time rent comes up, every time bills pile up on the kitchen counter. She's the one holding everything together with her corporate job while I'm out here dreaming, and I know she's tired of carrying the weight of our relationship alone. The conversation happens quickly, like ripping off a bandage. Leah tells me she's had enough, that she can't do this anymore. And honestly, I can't blame her. The breakup is harsh and raw, full of things we probably shouldn't have said but needed to get out. I'm supposed to pack my things and figure out where to go, but then everything changes. The news starts reporting this virus spreading across the world, and suddenly California announces a stay-at-home order for this thing called COVID-19. Everything shuts down so fast that it makes my head spin. Businesses closing their doors, people scrambling to understand what's happening. I have nowhere to go, no friend's couch to crash on because everyone is locked in their own homes, and Leah reluctantly lets me stay. So here I am, sleeping on the couch in an apartment I used to share as a partner, now reduced to an unwanted roommate. The first few days are incredibly awkward, tiptoeing around each other, trying to establish boundaries that didn't exist when we were together. She sets up her work-from-home station in the bedroom, and I'm left navigating this strange new reality where my ex-girlfriend is 20 feet away at all times. I try to give her space, but space is a luxury we don't have anymore. Every morning I wake up and remember we're not together. And every morning she walks past me with that look that says she wishes I wasn't here. The pandemic starts becoming real in ways I didn't expect. At first, I don't take it as seriously as Leah does, and this becomes a huge point of tension between us. She's frantically wiping down groceries and insisting on masks, while I'm still trying to wrap my head around why we can't just go outside. I invite a friend over one day without thinking, and the explosion that follows makes me realize how differently we're processing this whole situation. She calls me irresponsible and careless, and maybe she's right. I'm used to going with the flow, being the laid-back creative type, but this virus doesn't care about my personality. Days blur into weeks, and the numbers on the calendar become meaningless. We're about 60 days into this lockdown, and I catch myself thinking about how naive we were at the beginning, believing this would all be over quickly. The fights become more frequent and pettier. We argue about who should wash the dishes, who gets to use the living room for their Zoom calls, whose turn it is to pick what we watch on TV. These small domestic battles feel monumental when they're happening every single day with no escape. I can hear her on work calls in the bedroom, sounding so professional and put together, and then she comes out and we're back to this toxic cycle of resentment and frustration. I try to audition for roles remotely, recording self-tapes in our tiny bathroom because it's the only place with decent lighting. I get a callback for a Ryan Murphy series, something that should excite me but somehow feels beneath what I imagined for myself. The irony isn't lost on me that I'm being picky about opportunities when I can barely contribute to rent. Leah loses her job during this time, and I watch the confident, career-driven woman I fell in love with crumble under the weight of unemployment and confinement. For a brief moment, we're in the same boat, both of us directionless and scared. And there's an understanding that passes between us. The isolation does strange things to both of us. Leah starts having virtual meetings with her coworkers, and I notice she's spending more time talking to this one guy who has a cute dog and seems to take pandemic precautions as seriously as she does. There's a jealousy that creeps in, irrational and unwelcome, because I have no right to feel possessive over someone who isn't mine anymore. But being stuck here, watching her laugh at someone else's jokes through a screen, it tears at something inside me. Things escalate when she decides to meet up with this coworker in person, breaking her own strict quarantine rules. The hypocrisy stings, but more than that, I'm terrified she might get infected, that I might get infected, that this reckless decision could have consequences neither of us are ready for. The tension reaches a breaking point one afternoon when too many small frustrations pile up at once. I find myself sitting in my car in the parking lot, just needing to be away from the apartment for 5 minutes. The scream that comes out of me is primal. Months of suppressed emotion and confusion and fear, all released in one moment, and then I'm crying. I'm crying because I don't know how to fix any of this. Not our relationship, not the pandemic, not my career, not the person I've become. When I go back upstairs, Leah sees my red eyes and swollen face. And for the first time in months, there's genuine concern instead of annoyance. We start talking, really talking, not just arguing about surface-level annoyances, but discussing the deeper issues. I admit that I've been selfish, that I've relied on her stability without appreciating the burden it placed on her shoulders. She confesses that she's been unfair too, holding on to resentment instead of communicating what she needed from me. The conversations are uncomfortable and vulnerable, stripping away the protective layers we've built up since the breakup. We talk about our fears regarding the virus, about the uncertainty of the future, about how this pandemic has forced us to confront parts of ourselves we'd rather ignore. I start making more effort around the apartment, taking initiative with chores without being asked, trying to be a better roommate even if I can't be a better boyfriend. Leah softens gradually, her rigid pandemic protocols relaxing slightly as we both adapt to this new normal. We establish a routine that feels less like warfare and more like cooperation. Some nights we watch shows together on the couch, maintaining a respectful distance, but sharing the experience. There are moments where I catch her smiling at something I said, and it reminds me of why we worked in the first place. The pandemic continues around us, the world still locked down and uncertain, but inside our small apartment, something shifts. I can't say we're getting back together, and I can't say we're just friends, but we're finding a way to coexist that doesn't feel like punishment anymore. I'm learning to grow up, to take responsibility, to understand that dreams need to be balanced with reality. Leah is learning to let go of some control, to forgive both me and herself for not being perfect. We're two people who broke up at the worst possible time, forced to live through a global crisis together, and somehow we're both becoming better versions of ourselves through it. The apartment feels different now, less like a prison, and more like a shared space where two people are figuring things out. The lockdown drags on with no clear end in sight, but we've stopped counting the days so obsessively. I get up each morning not knowing what will happen between us, whether we'll find our way back to each other or move forward as friends who survived something extraordinary together. What I do know is that this experience, as painful and claustrophobic as it's been, has taught me more about myself and about relationships than any screenplay I could have written. We're navigating uncharted territory, both with the pandemic and with each other, taking it one day at a time because that's all anyone can do.